I sat down in person with games media personality Colin Moriarty to talk about my lifelong doubting faith and the reasons I still hang on to it. You can listen to that conversation right now by following the link below. I hope you enjoy it.
The song goes like this.
Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to Trial and Error, where I play the first part of a game or a game demo, usually do that pretty badly, and give you my thoughts along the way. This time I'm taking a look at Death Stranding. Very hot topic kind of game, very divisive already in terms of the reviews it's been getting. In addition to having a reportedly very weird, creative, and unusual story and world as the centerpiece of this game, the mechanics are also reportedly about carrying inventory items from A to B. An open world game where you're traveling and delivering items from one place to another, and you are upgrading your abilities over time to make that traversal easier. Now, I like a lot of open world games, and I like games that are about just traversing, moving around in the environment. A lot of those Ubisoft games really kind of scratch that itch for me, like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I also like a blend of wild sci-fi or fantasy concepts that are weirdly creative, that are juxtaposed with real human drama. And based on what I've seen of the trailers, it seems like that is what the developer is at least going for here. I don't know if it's going to have that effect on me because he is a Japanese developer, and it looks like this is going to be heavily inspired by anime in some ways, which can really be hit or miss with me. Mostly miss, and largely because of things that get lost in translation and just come off as weird. Not creative and cool to me, but just kind of like odd in a way where I just don't know what the crap is going on. And I've been hearing that complaint already about this game. So I'm hoping for the Farscape sort of cool weirdness with human drama, but also bracing for the annoying weirdness for the sake of weirdness that is found in a lot of anime. Now, I am planning on just kind of showing you stuff without really being concerned about spoilers. I'm going to play just the first 5 hours, so hopefully that won't spoil too much for you. But if you're worried about that, look at the timestamps below. I'm sure I'll include a link to my summary thoughts, which will be spoiler-free. You can just skip straight to those if you want. All right, let's find out what this crazy animal is. So the default difficulty is normal. You can bump it up to hard, or go down to easy, and check this out, very easy. I like the sound of that, especially since there are reportedly stealth mechanics in this game. I don't like stealth mechanics most of the time because they often come with insta-fail scenarios, like, oh, you get spotted, insta-fail, and now you get reset back to some other thing. I'm here mostly to see this world, explore this world, and see what kind of weird story ride the developer wants to take me on. So, and I also suck at games, so I'm going with very easy. Okay, good. They've got an auto-aim option. I like that in games with any kind of like gunplay. Other stuff here, I'm not sure what I'll want to adjust it to. I need to get a handle on the balance mechanic. Oh, that's cool. The difficulty level can be changed at any time via the options menu. Very nice. Okay. Oh man, so this is really playing out like a movie. Like they're going for like the opening credits sequence, and I don't know if this bodes well. One thing I don't like about a lot of movies that, or a lot of games, excuse me, Freudian slip, that come out of Japan is their indulgence in lengthy cutscenes that I don't really have patience for. I don't play games for story, or at least not a story that the developers want me to sit back and watch. That's what I watch movies for, that's what I read books for, that's what I watch TV shows for. I like the story in games that I create through my actions, and so hopefully, and that's usually because video games just don't make good stories in the same way that other forms of fiction do, like movies and TV. Now maybe he'll break the mold here and be like, oh, the first game that I actually like find the story is interesting is something that I would see in premium television today. I have my doubts. Left trigger grab with left hand, right trigger grab with right hand. Oh, interesting. Transfer cargo from hand to back. Oh, I gotta keep holding on to it with my left trigger or I end up putting it down. Carrying cargo in your hands allows you to protect it with your body. Hand-carried cargo will not take damage even if you fall. Oh, that's interesting. Oops! Oh, crap! What in the world? Sam is a Repatriate, meaning that he can return to life from the place known as the Seam when killed. In the Seam, follow the Strand to guide Sam's soul to his body to bring him back. Oh, that's interesting. So when I die, I kind of keep playing in some kind of afterlife world? What the heck? How do I repatriate? How do I, What the crap? Oh, puking black stuff. And it's floating away. That's really weird. Eat. Oh, I can't eat it. I floated away before I could eat it. I didn't lose any cargo. I seem to be brought back right where I left off. So that's good. I mean, I like rain. If it rains a lot in this game, I'll be happy. I live in Arizona. We, like, never get rain, so I love rain. Oh, okay, I'm not choosing that. Cutscene.
Yeah, I've heard of you.
Why are they showing the actress's name? Oh, good. So it looks like I can pause in the middle of cutscenes. That's valuable. So far, the names of the characters. Sam Porter Bridges is somebody who carries things from one place to another, and this woman named Fragile, who has had her body damaged quite a bit by the time-advancing rain in the game. They seem to be pretty on the nose, so I would assume he's going for some kind of allegory here. Just have to try and tune into what message he's trying to put out there. I do think it's weird that every time they introduce a new character, they put the character's name big, and then in smaller type point size, they put the actor's name. Anyway, you know, by this point, we've already had an opening credits sequence, so if we're trying to mimic movies here, that actually would take me out of the movie experience, and does take me out of this experience, to, like, throughout the rest of the movie, every time you introduce a new character, have the actor's name. You know, that just takes me out of the fiction. Don't be so serious, low roar, courtesy of Novato Music. They're gonna put the song titles up for the soundtrack of the game as I'm playing through it. See, again, that's kind of like meta and taking me out of the fiction. I appreciate the developer's desire to give credit to the creators and performers involved, but that disrupts the fiction for me. I don't know, I don't like this music. A lot of times in these open world games I turn the music off. I feel like in this game I probably don't have that luxury because it is such an artistically intentional game, and that I might miss out on something if I turn the music off. Like miss out on something in the story or themes even. Oh, grip for balance. Alright, can I save anytime I want? How does that work? Alright, well, it does look like I can save anytime I'm just moving in the open world. Okay, so you've got this blue line. The light blue layer is the endurance gauge. That's above the stamina gauge. That can wear out. When that gauge fully depletes, Sam can't carry his load, so you should take a break before that happens. Oh, that's cool. Look at that. Use right stick to move the camera to look in the direction you want to move. If you're finding it hard to move using left stick while controlling the camera, stop and try using the camera without moving for a while. It's best to walk on flat, even surfaces when possible. That's really cool. I mean, it looks like in the tutorial they're really trying to make this approachable to non-gamers. I feel like a lot of games will kind of give token tutorials about using the camera, but really they expect that most gamers know how to do that. But maybe because this game is so story-focused, they are really trying to make it accessible to people who don't normally play games but would want to try this for its story. Wow, look at that. If you're finding it hard to move the camera up and down, try inverting the controls by pressing Options to open the pause menu, then select System Options, Camera Settings, First-Person Camera, Vertical Movement, and set it to Inverted. They are really trying to make this accessible to people who are not used to playing 3D games. Good for them. I think that's really cool. Okay, what does not feel accessible to me at the moment is where I'm supposed to go. I can't... Where am I supposed to go? Okay, I guess I'll just go there. And I sure like the way the game looks, even on a regular PS4. It definitely gives attention to world detail in the same way that, like, Ubisoft open-world games do, with nice Foley sounds, crunchy boots, and a little bit of equipment sounds. The character animations are really good, too.
Just you, yourself, and me.
He keeps saying that, just you, yourself, and me. I don't know what that means. I'm a little concerned that, like, artistry is going to take precedence over logic, story logic. Return lost cargo, ration packs, predicted likes, 40. Oh, and there's like a thumbs up thing down there. What the crap is that? So it's not connected to any of my social media, but it's definitely inspired by social media in some of its elements. Oh, so you have to protect your cargo while you're traveling if it gets damaged, that maybe reduces your rewards upon delivery? Boy, we're still showing credits. We had like an opening credit sequence that I sat through, and now we're still showing credits in intermittent cutscenes in the opening first hour of gameplay. I like the design of the world, like all the vehicles, the costumes I'm seeing so far. Very cool. It feels very realized. And for a game about basically moving around in an open world, that's important to me. That seems a little silly, the way they grab their faces like that. I mean, maybe that they need to feel like they need to show us we're not breathing. But you can hold your breath without doing that. Oh, jeez. What the crap? What the crap? Okay, they're showing me a lot of things purposefully that are not being explained to me right now. So he's got a weird cross scar on his abdomen. He's having this weird pseudo-dream experience, I guess, maybe, where the baby that was inside the container is now out. We don't know why the baby's inside the container. We don't know why corpses, I guess, at some point explode or become dangerous or something. There's so many different things that we don't know that are not being explained to us right now, a little over an hour into the game. At this point, that's totally cool with me. I'm totally fine with that. It's intriguing to me. I love a world that doesn't spoon-feed everything to me about what's going on and how it works. I love seeing things that are wildly creative that I kind of have to ask myself, what's that about? But I need to, for a lot of those things, eventually be able to figure out or be told what's going on. And even more important to me, I need to feel confident that the creator has an explanation for all of these things. There is a trend in postmodernism in art to create weird ideas that are not explained and that the creator themselves does not understand the meaning of. Alex Proyas confessed at the end of one of his movies, "I don't even know what this means." And I have serious doubts that in a TV show like Lost, the creators themselves had any idea where they were going or what a lot of things meant. That does not work for me. That's not clever to me. What's clever to me is wildly imaginative ideas that do have a logic behind them. That actually, I think, takes a lot more skill in writing. So what remains to be seen at this point, just a little over an hour in, is this going to be postmodern nonsense ultimately, or is it going to be something that's wildly imaginative and creative, but is actually also thought out and has logic to all of it? They've already explained, one or two things as we've moved through, and so I'm hopeful that the latter will be the case. All right, and just over an hour in, we finally get the title screen. Still lots of watching. I'm not sure how I feel about that. They let me control the camera every now and then, but I'm like, I don't know. See, there's things that I'm just not sure if there's some unusual reason for it. Why is he so distant from his mother? Why did he not know that she was the President of the United States? Why is he not reacting much more intensely as she dies? There could be a reason for that, or it could just be like weirdness that results from Japanese creators making something that is ultimately lost in translation, I felt that way a lot when I used to try watching anime in college. And of course, I mean lost in translation more on a cultural level than a linguistic level. This game was made to be, experienced in English, and I think some other languages too, but it wasn't made primarily for Japanese audiences and then translated. But there's still, I think, maybe potential for some cultural things in the mind of the creator, Hideo Kojima, that are just not going to make sense to me and a lot of audiences, maybe in the way that he thinks they will. Why do they keep calling him by his full name? That's another little oddity. Gosh, I'm doing a lot of watching. And why is this dude wearing a skull mask? I mean, it's just... Oh, dang. Okay, so now I'm really having to shift my weight left and right in order to avoid falling over with this big body strapped to my back. Yeah, the balancing of weight here is kind of like adding an element of, you know, a mechanic that represents some element of realism that games usually don't touch on. Like in your average open world game, you know, it's easy to just move around in the world. Even these days in a parkour game like Assassin's Creed, it's super easy. But I would describe it, in terms of game design, a little bit like adding hunger meters in survival games, or the need to sleep and stuff. It's just a different aspect of reality that's being simulated here, instead of, you know, hunger meters and stuff. So there's a sense in which this is kind of feels like a survival game a little bit. And now it looks like there's a little bit of an environmental puzzle element too, very, very light, you know, even calling it that would be too much, but, you know, I don't know exactly how to get from A to B. I have to figure that out. I can quote-unquote plot a course, but that just creates a straight line between me and my destination. It doesn't tell me which is going to be the best route to travel. It's interesting, they pulled the camera back and started this kind of like soothing travel music in the background, or dramatic travel music. So I like that it's going for style. I think it's probably going to be the type of experience that is going to trigger thought in me more than it will emotional reaction. I think that there's just enough oddness left that's lost in cultural translation that it's not going to connect with me much emotionally, if at all. But I am interested in all that it's doing stylistically. Oh, you stop the music just when I go to my map menu? No, this is part of the journey. This is part of my journey. Keep that music going. Oh, jeez. I almost biffed it. So what's the metaphor here? Carrying my dead mother on a mission she has for me, so carrying out the wishes of my parents, living out their expectations of me. I don't know. Okay, so there's a ladder here. And I heard about this. I heard that basically other players can leave objects out for you to use that they've used on their journey that are left behind for you to use if you want. And you can choose to like this if you want. You can't choose to dislike it, which I think is nice. So really, especially with this balance mechanic, this game seems to be about traveling across the land and enduring the difficulty of balancing things on your back, not stumbling, something I'm probably supposed to feel about persistence. I can tell that, like, this is a kind of game that I would have to be in a specific mood for. Come on, Sam, come on. All right. At least I don't take damage when I biff it. Come on, Sam, come on! Oh! Jeez Louise, dude. I think I'm gonna skip all this like business. It's like playing The Division, where people are calling you the chosen one. You're like, you're the one that's helping us put the world back together. But when you go to a hub, you see a bunch of other chosen ones with names like Monkey Dookie 967. And like, wait a minute, what the crap? I'm not there are all these other, it just totally breaks the immersion. And I think he's going for something here, like, you know, hey, just like they're trying to reconnect the world, we need to be reconnected in the world. And yeah, that's a good message. We do need to be reconnected. But, well, I'll talk about the message a little bit later, maybe. For now, the attempts at communicating that message through metagame elements, like this liking system, are just kind of like falling flat for me. I imagine I'm going to not like anything. And that's okay. If you find anything that was put out by Paterboy and you don't want to like it, you don't have to. I'm going to be just fine. Wrong button. Okay, I think I'm getting close. Ahead and to the right. Oh, there we go. Okay. Stop. Oops. So her name is President Bridget Strand. Just like I'm Sam Porter Bridges. Wait a minute. If she's my mother, then either her last name is Bridges or her last name is Strand. So someone named her Bridget Bridges, or or she has the last name Strand in a game called Death Stranding about some world that took place after an event called the Death Stranding. It's too much. It's too on the nose it might as well be, Allegory, The Pilgrim's Progress, And for me, Allegory, like The Pilgrim's Progress, as is, without a lot of changes made to it, is not going to be something I'm emotionally involved in. It's going to be something I'm just going to be saying, okay, well, what's the message here? That's clearly what this is about. It's about a message. But something about going for style and drama in addition to the message, I don't know, it's not working for me. A lot of walking and watching. Walk and watch. That's the subtitle for Death Stranding. Walk and watch. And with how much watching there is, I don't think I'm being unfair to say that I've experienced 30 or 40% of my time watching and the rest being in control of the game. That's a lot of time spent watching. To the point where I'm like, well, shouldn't this just be like a Netflix series or something? And I've heard that Kojima Productions is actually going to be making movies in the future. And so what I see here, what I seem to see here is a game developer that really wants to be a movie developer instead. So they're asking me to dispose of this bridge baby, because it's not serving its purpose. And it's like this, almost like a fetus type baby. It's not fully developed, really close, but not fully developed. Now, I would be really surprised if this was the case, but there's almost an abortion metaphor there. Like here's this life that hasn't been born yet that is not serving the purposes that I have in mind, and so it's better to just get rid of it, And I know that's a really callous, representation of the internal struggle that women go through who make the choice to have an abortion. So I don't mean to callously oversimplify just the difficulty going on in the lives of women who choose that route. Anyway, I'm not going to go further down that rabbit hole of a subject because I don't think the game is intending to. But, you play a game like this or you watch a show like this that clearly has a lot of metaphor and messaging in it, and it does get at least me thinking, is this intended as a message? Is this intended as a message? And that can be an interesting experience for me. I do think that there is an interesting experience for me to have here. Oh, geez, what the crap? Shake off. Shake off. Shake off. Shake off. Shake on, shake off. The shaker. Oh boy. Okay, that was intense, sneaking past those BTs, ghosty thingies. It didn't feel very difficult, though. So that's good, that's good. I prefer to just experience intensity from a game because of what it does atmospherically, rather than intensity produced through difficulty. Rest or drink from your canteen. Well, how do I drink from my canteen? Oh, select canteen. Drink Monster Energy drink. Oh, man. At least I'm not, actually holding a Monster Energy drink can. Well, they gotta get their funding from somewhere, right? It's a nice-looking game. Thank you, Monster Energy. I don't know, this sad, piano-y travel music is getting a little bit old. This would work better if I was emotionally invested in the story, but the heavy allegory prevents me from connecting with any sense of dramatic realism. Well, it would be nice if I could link this up to some kind of Amazon Prime music service that I already own, that I already subscribe to, and have them select tunes that are emotionally appropriate but based on my liking. Like Barry Manilow's Ships. We walked to the sea, just my father and me, and the dogs played around on the sand. Walk and watch! So much time put into, things that are not part of the core gameplay. Have I asked yet why this guy is wearing a skull mask? I don't know, an in-world reason or a symbolic reason why he's wearing that mask. So Cupid, he's using this device called Cupid to reconnect different cities. So love, right? Love is what's going to reconnect us. That's true. That's true. But it's overly simplistic. As a culture, we can't even agree on what love is. And so we need to first work on our definition, our common understanding of what love is before we can think that basically a simple platitude like, love will bring us together can actually bring us together. We need an understanding of what love is, and then we need to see demonstrations of love for what it actually is. So I think it's a well-intended message, and it's not a bad message. It's just lacking some substance in key specific areas to make it, I think, an ultimately effective message. I do think there's some worthwhile commentary about Sam he has this condition where he doesn't want anyone to touch him, he's a loner, and yet he's being called upon to help connect others. And I do think that there's a valuable message there for us as geeks, and popular thinking at large, popular culture at large. In Western societies, we're getting more connected digitally, and I think maybe this is part of what this game is kind of getting at thematically. We are more connected in a very superficial sense digitally, but we are far less connected relationally, because the nature of our connection with others digitally tends to be very surface level, and we are losing the ability and the interest in connecting with each other relationally in a way that is both healthy and maturing and developing. Our ability to love well and to be in relationship with others is atrophying in this context of a digitally connected world.
Yeah, covering the world in cable didn't bring an end to war and suffering. Don't act surprised when it all comes apart if you try to do it again. Round and round it goes. Connect, reconnect, it's not that simple.
See, he makes some good sense there, So maybe the game will address it at some point, that it's not as simple as just connecting. Now, loading screen. Are we going to play now, or are we going to do some more watching? More watching. Okay. Whoa, did we have a wardrobe change there? She was not wearing a red dress there. I don't know what just happened.
Allow me to collect a sample of your excretions for my studies. They provide non-invasive means to...
Oh my gosh, can I be done in this room? Can I play a game, please? Please. Leave. There we go. Leave private room. No? Did you just look at me and say no? No, we're leaving. This is boring as all get out.
The terminals Amelie's people built in the towns and cities they passed through on their journey west are called knots. The infrastructure's there, but the chiral network is offline. Right
Watching.
These shoes look like they've done some serious miles. Shall I dispose of them?
Wait. Hold on.
Boy.
There's something I want you to look into. My blood seemed to set those things off.
Oh my gosh, I'm starting to think that 40% was too low. We finally moving again. Okay, alright, we're playing a game again.
Have a pleasant journey. Sam.
Oh, no, we're listening.
For available orders. Sam. Triple checked your loadout, I take it? Sam.
Oh, Sam.
Someone left over there.
Sam. The idea of trying to create connection between me and other players through these superficial means of setting up helpful signs and putting out ladders and stuff like that, it undermines... Oh my gosh, Sam, would you stop calling me? I think it undermines the real connection that we need to be developing as humans. Maybe undermines is too strong of a word, but it does nothing more that I can see than perpetuate the same very superficial connection we already have in our digital world. I mean, this open world, traveling, navigating terrain type gameplay does hold a little bit of interest to me. Not a ton, and I feel like they're breaking me up from it with these big long cutscenes so that I start to fade out and lose interest in the game altogether. before I really have a chance to dig in and appreciate the actual gameplay. And I can't help but wonder if that's kind of a risky design decision, because there's choice in how I create my loadout. What ladders and ropes and things I'm going to bring that I think I'll need to traverse from point A to B across this big open world, you know. So there's strategy and thinking involved in that. But there's no choice in these cutscenes. I'm just watching the story play out. So if there's no choice in the cutscenes, they're going to play out the way they're going to play out every single time. And the gameplay, you know, is interesting, but not quite hooking me as much as I'd like it to, especially since because of the interruption of the cutscenes. Then what is there to prevent me or anyone else that feels similarly to just realize, oh, you know what? I can watch this on YouTube. I can watch this on YouTube and see if the story is interesting enough. I mean, the problem to begin with the, I'm a glass is half empty kind of guy when it comes to story in video games. I'm not the kind of person, at least haven't been for a long, long time, who's been like, oh wow, look what cool things they're doing with storytelling and cutscenes. It's almost like a movie. Well, these days I'm like, I'd just rather see a movie. I'd rather watch a TV show. I think games should excel at being games and let movies and TV excel at being what they are. Because right now these cutscenes, I'm seeing CGI performances with motion capture that fails to get the true subtle details of a human performance that you would get in live action. That's always missing, even in big budget movies that are really trying to fool me into thinking the CGI is real. So compared to live action, it is lacking in real good human performances. Compared to premium television and many theatrical releases, the script is not tight. It's spending a whole lot of time talking, and it should be condensed down. It's going for some weird, interesting, creative things that may or may not have a payoff because of the fact that things get lost in cultural translation. But you can skip all the cutscenes. So what I almost want to do is watch the whole thing on YouTube, where at least I can pause and rewind and say, wait a minute, I didn't quite get that. Let me rewind a little bit. Or set it to play at 1.25 speed, just so that clip is a little bit less sluggish. Get the whole story experience on YouTube, and then if I'm interested enough, go back and play it as a game, skipping all the cutscenes and just focus on the gameplay. I feel like there are two very different experiences here that I don't want to have attached into a single experience. You know, the quality of visual storytelling here, for my tastes, is like the kind of show I would put on while I'm grinding for experience in some open world game. But it's not something that's worth my time to give my full attention to sitting down and watching. Gosh, I feel like just a little over 3 hours in, I'm already able to give my summary thoughts on how I basically feel about this game. I really doubt my feelings about this game are going to change significantly. I'm going to play for a couple more hours, because for these trial and error reviews, I always like to put in at least 5. And we'll see if any of my feelings change. Nope, my feelings have not changed. I did some more stealth sneaking around, and I ran from some combat. I still felt held hostage by the cutscenes way too often. Let me just give my summary thoughts, at the risk of repeating myself a little bit, just to try and, you know, package them all together right here at the end. I love the visual realization of this world. It's dark and grim sci-fi, at least in what it looks like. The technology and lingo suggest this richly, deeply developed setting that I would really love to explore, but I'm not really allowed to explore that in the gameplay as much as I'd like to. The voice acting, the motion capture are among the best I've seen in a video game. But when I'm not influencing the game through gameplay choices and just watching a cutscene instead, then it's like a flip gets switched in my head, and I experience it instead as an animated movie. I don't evaluate it and think of it in terms of a video game where maybe my attitude would be more glass is half full. Instead, I'm looking at it, sitting back and viewing it now as an animated, a CG animated movie of some kind. And in that case, it's really glass is half empty, because it doesn't match what I want to experience when I'm sitting back, putting the controller down, and just watching passively a story. I'm taken out of the fiction in those scenes by overly obvious allegory. I kind of want the developer Kojima to just going to give me a textbook of your worldview. It will be just as dramatically engaging, which is to say, not really at all, and a lot more effective in communicating, your worldview with clarity, so I can actually, evaluate it, and just you can say what you really want to say. I'd prefer The Matrix or The Chronicles of Narnia as a sort of template for balancing metaphorical messaging with story that does still function as a story apart from the messaging. It's also not obvious to me what elements are intended to be weird with a purpose in mind, a story logic behind them that will be revealed at some point, and what elements are weird just for lack of cultural familiarity with where the writer is coming from, which, Kojima being Japanese, comes from a very different culture from what I'm used to, and stories are written in a very different way and with a very different background, cultural background and way of thinking, and so that makes me unmotivated to try and understand various elements in this story, as I may discover that something is never explained the way I want it to be, that I think is pretty essential to my enjoyment of the experience. Scenes, I think, could also be much more economically written and edited than they are, again, when compared to just like a Netflix show or some other kind of, media that I would sit down and watch. I just notice those things a lot, and if I could turn that switch off and evaluate it and say, oh wow, but for a video game, then I wish I could flip that switch, but I can't evaluate it on those terms. It just doesn't work for me. And there's just a touch of what I would call anime weirdness in dialogue, just in a few instances, that makes it seem translated into English rather than written by a native English speaker. Now, it's not near as obvious to me and frequent to me as when I'm watching actual anime, where it's just like, wow, this very frequently feels translated. But if you're sensitive to that like I am, I think it's there for you to notice. The gameplay was hard to settle into because of these constant interruptions of lengthy cutscenes, but it felt like ultimately an open world survival game with the balancing mechanic as you're trying to walk back and walk long distances over various types of terrain without stumbling and falling over, using that balancing mechanic instead of, say, like a food and rest type of mechanic that you would see in most survival games. You also have the usual environmental hazards and dangers of the genre, like the acid rain, it would be an example, or the enemies that you need to sneak past or that you have to run from. You've got this baby that you're carrying with you that you have to maintain through soothing activities in order to keep it functioning so that your vital scanning equipment will be working. So there's these things too. There's environmental hazards and things to maintain, and in that way it reminds me a lot of a very survival type experience, but with slightly different trappings and mechanics. It's not action heavy at all. It does have some combat that I haven't run into yet, but I understand that a lot of those encounters are best just avoided, rather than engaging in. So it's not a frequent combat experience. Lots of traveling, lots of planning routes, both in the long term and also in the short term, as you're figuring out, well, should I walk around this way? Then I can avoid some of those rocks that might make me stumble, So you're looking, hundreds of yards ahead of you and figuring out where should I go in the near future, as well as the long-term route that you're planning in your mind and on your map. You've got those environmental challenges that I mentioned. You're managing inventory and how you're going to carry your inventory, because that affects the way you balance your character. And just various meters, stamina meters and health meters and just stuff like that. And equipment damage, over time as you carry it around. If it's damaged too much by acid rain, you get less of a reward. So lots of these meters to kind of manage. So, again, all these mechanical trappings of a survival game. But, and I could possibly be down for that, but not all the time, not being interrupted frequently by these long cutscenes that I have no choices in and I have no influence over, and not for $60 when I have so many other unfinished games that I will much more reliably enjoy. Now, what I might do is have just a YouTube video of all the cutscenes put together, playing in the background while I play other games that I'm more interested in, but maybe are a little bit open world and grindy and stuff, so I can glance over now and then and kind of keep track of the story in my peripheral vision, as it interests me, because it's not something I want to sit down and give my full undivided attention to. No freaking way. And then maybe somewhere in the middle of that process of running through, I think one video I saw had like 9 or 11 hours, of cutscenes to go through. maybe in the middle of that, I will buy the game heavily discounted, and then as I'm playing it, I'll just skip all the cutscenes so I can have a better paced experience with the gameplay. Or maybe I'll end up just watching all the cutscenes, shrug and say, oh, that was weird, but kind of cool now and then just forget about the game, forever. That's a very likely scenario. Of course, I might just even say, I'm not even interested in watching the cutscenes. I got other podcasts and things to watch and listen to. As for the two most obvious themes to me, the first, I appreciate the message that we as humans need to relearn how to connect with each other. And the key to making that happen is going to be love. But what I want to add to that message that, I think, I not only think is vital, but I think might be included later in the game. I don't know. But that's a definition of love as selfless prioritization of the good of others over oneself. Divorce rates, at least in the United States, show that we don't have a good grasp on love or a commitment to it as a virtue rather than as a fleeting feeling. Jesus talked about this kind of love. Agape was the Greek word that he used. And so as Christian geeks, we have, I think, not only the resources, but the responsibility to learn and to relearn constantly how to love well, how to put that love into action, and then to put that love into action in our day-to-day lives, even though everyone around us may seem to us to be irritable and unlovable. And that's the second message that I noticed strongly. Sam, the main character, doesn't want to be touched. He wants to be alone, and yet this story calls for him to take the initiative in connecting with other people and connecting people with each other. And that's you and me as Christian geeks who are first and foremost royal ambassadors and children of God. We have to be willing to be in contact with other people, even though that hurts us, even though that costs a lot of energy. That's what Jesus demonstrated in the way that he loved the people who turned around and hurt him, and that's what he is now calling us into as his followers. I'm not comfortable with that reality, but it's something that I'm trying to increasingly embrace in my relationships. So despite this being a game that ultimately doesn't interest me very much, those are good messages to be reminded of and to recognize and to apply more fully as they are truly and best represented in Scripture and in the life of Jesus. All right, well, I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible at patreon.com/SpiritBlade Productions. Those are all of my thoughts. I'd love to get yours in the comments below, and then I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com. I had to remember, what is it again? christiangeekcentral.com. As we continue to geek out and seek the truth.
christiangeekcentral.com